program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
Let's start the July Waterways and Parks Commission meeting. We'll start out with the approval of the minutes from the June meeting. Are there any questions or additions? Seeing none, can we get a motion to accept the minutes in a second?
So moved.
Joshua, second?
Second.
Meredith seconds. All those in favor of accepting the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are accepted. For new business, we've got recommendation on an ordinance to amend chapter 9.76 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eau Claire entitled Parks, Public Grounds to include public art encroachments. Mr. Pippinger.
Before the commission is an ordinance to amend chapter 9.76 of the Code of Ordinance, Parks and Public Grounds to include public art encroachments. Specifications for this is we're seeing more and more desire to put art in the City of Eau Claire, and what we want to do is make sure that we have some guidelines in place to make sure that our parks remain a park and it doesn't go beyond that. But there's really some neat opportunities that I'll show in the PowerPoint towards the end of what can be done in parks with some public art displays. The purpose of the, you can go ahead, Pat. The purpose of the ordinance is to regulate the public art that is allowed in city parks and on city property. Again, we want to make sure that the parks remain a park and that we have the guidelines. It really gives us guidelines, and also the artists, when they bring forth ideas, that we can show them what would be allowed and what would not be allowed. You go with that. Come up to the next one. So permit details. The permit length, City Council may grant a permit for up to 3 years. Permits are eligible for a 3-year renewal for a total of 6 years for possible. So again, this art that we're putting in isn't going to be so-called permanent. It'll be somewhat temporary. But we want to also, with this type of art, is make sure that we have in place if things get, I think we've all seen murals on certain walls and so forth that start looking rather poorly after a while. We want to make sure we have some guidelines on that too. Process of the application, the artist will work with the Arts Council. The Public Arts Council was formed as part of the Leadership Eau Claire program and has continued to work with the city to place art in public areas. And that's where this will start out, is that local artists will work with the Public Arts Council. They'll be the first group that will actually vet the art, so they know what we would not like to see in our parks or in our public spaces. This also not only covers our parks, but it also covers our facilities like City Hall in those cases. So we want to make sure that they're vetting that to make sure that someone doesn't burn something that would be considered perhaps not what the rest of the community would like to see. And they'll submit an application to the Community Services Department. The application will go to the Waterways and Parks Commission, so before this group, if it's applicable. So if it's something that's in a park or on a waterway, we'll bring it to this group to hear it and recommend approval or not approval to the City Council. If it's a situation where the public art is going to be on or in a city facility, not related, it wouldn't come through this group, but it would go directly to City Council for approval.
Are there guidelines, or maybe it's coming up?
They're coming up.
Okay.
Public art definitions. Public art shall not include art installed by or on behalf of city departments of its own initiative or request. So if the city is putting something in, I suppose we could consider that, photographs as art, but if we're putting it in, that's not considered public art. Something that would be submitted to us by an outside group that wanted to do something within a park or a facility, that would be considered outside art. And also, public art shall not include expressive speech protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, and nothing in this chapter is intended to convert any public property into a forum for protected speech. So we don't want this to create an issue where it's a forum. It's supposed to be art and something for people to go and enjoy and see, because I think everybody has seen our sculpture tour and some of the great pieces that have been put in, and it's enhanced the community. I know, go ahead.
Sorry, can you remind me what expressive speech protected by the First Amendment is?
Again, if you're protesting something, it could be, I would say, if you were protesting a war or a government function, I think that's what that's entailed. I would.
Like not political.
What?
Like not political.
Right.
But protesting is political.
Right.
But the art shall not include that.
Okay. It's just protesting?
No, I think there's more to that. I would have to confirm perhaps with our legal department on that, on exactly what that expressive speech
Okay.
Anything that would be offensive to any person.
That's really broad.
Yeah, I mean, art, like I said, say art by definition is expressive, so it seems a little vague to me. Shall not include expressive speech. I mean, art is a kind of speech, right? It's creativity, it's expressive. Yeah, I guess I would like to hear from the legal department about how they're defining these terms.
I can get that information from them on that. A lot of this was put together by our legal department. And I believe this ordinance itself was utilized from another source, from another community that had a template from it.
I mean, not to make too much of a point of this, but we have public libraries. Do we go through the library shelves and eliminate books that are expressive in ways that might offend some people? No. I mean, except there might be some very extreme instances, right? I mean, there's a wide range of books available at a public library. I'm a little uncomfortable with this sort of blanket yet vague language. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that all the art that would be presented would appeal to everybody.
Right.
I mean, I would,
right.
I would say there will be some that will say, well, what is it? Or what, I don't like it. But not necessarily that it would become something that would create a forum for protected speech. Or I'll have to get some. Pat, did you understand what that?
Well, yeah, I think we probably have to talk more legal, but I guess, the point here is that the idea behind this ordinance is not to prohibit free speech, but in terms of on public property, that the council has some guidelines in terms of what kinds of artwork they want to approve, and this basically would give them some guidelines in terms of when they review a particular project.
But then who would be the arbiter of what would be included in that? Because I'm struggling here just to come up with an example of like what would be on one side of the scale and what would be on the other side of the scale. And then who is the final arbiter of expressive speech? Is it the council when they, or there's the Arts Council? And
the Arts Council is going to do a great amount of the vetting on this. With that group.
And I'm not familiar with the Arts Council per se. Who?
Like ECRAC?
Is there can you like summary of the Arts Council? Like who? Do you know like who's on it? Who would be on the Arts Council?
Yep. Greg Johnson is on that group. Chris Suliski, Ann Yoder, and person that I met.
Is it Eau Claire Regional Arts Council or is that something different?
No,
The public art council?
the Public Art Council.
So it's a body, something like this body with citizen volunteers, or no?
Yes. Yep, and it was created through the last Leadership Eau Claire program. Once I get through this is kind of the definition part, but
Yeah.
I think if you see some of what's prohibited and that part of it, you'll understand perhaps a little bit more. And I can get some further explanation on the definition that is presented to us.
There's another part of the code that has to do with assemblies and stuff, with needing a special permit and stuff like that. Would expressive speech fit in better under that?
On part of the other code that this fits into?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we go through location restrictions. Public art shall not be in the interior of any building, pavilion, shelter, other shelter, or structured use areas. Again, without prior approval. Be affixed or attached to a landmark building or structure that is on or eligible for National Register of Historic Places. I think everybody can understand we don't want a bunch of paint applied to the side of Carson Park baseball stadium because of the Downsville stone that's on there. If it was painted, it would likely destroy the stone and the mortar, that you wouldn't be able to get it off. So again, we don't want it. That should not be on that. Be permitted on masonry or natural stone surfaces through the application of paint or other materials. Public art shall not interfere with or otherwise deter existing or intended future park, green space, or city-owned real property uses, operations, or maintenance. Be permitted within grounds of any city cemetery, memorial, tribute space, or other location. Again, I think that's understandable. We don't want something that would demean those areas.
Jeff, I have a question. Should that say something like public art shall not without permission be, and then list all the things that can or cannot do? That's what you said, but
Yeah.
it's not, doesn't say that.
Oh, you mean on the one, just on the inside, the interior, without permission. The rest of these, it shall not.
Okay.
The interior part of the facility, we're still working on that in the draft and trying to determine if that is something that would be acceptable. And we, again, as we look at our spaces that in our facilities, much of it is very functional to the work areas. And also, if you look at a lot of the spaces, it could be considered a canvas for art. And it may or may not be reasonable to put something like that inside of a facility, perhaps on the wall of the city manager's office.
Are memorandums of understanding a way of getting around or permitting something like that, like the Angel of Hope statue in Lakeview Cemetery, the veterans group that was just here that wants to do the path with the posts every so often for the different wards? If they wanted to do something, can their memorandum of understanding allow them to get that in there, or this is saying, no, we don't want that now?
No, that with those memorandum of understandings, the ones that we heard from recently, that is primarily for the groups to fundraise for those projects, and then spell out what the city will do once the fundraising is successful. And that goes into another part of, we'll get a consultant, we'll design, and then we'll construct.
But the way this is worded, does that tell the vets group, we don't want those now?
No, this doesn't really have anything for the vets group, because the vets group, that memorial is going to be permanent. That is something that is going to be built as a permanent, and it's not
Okay.
really considered art, it's a memorial.
Not just on display.
Right.
This is more like installations and murals and that kind of thing. right?
When we get to murals, there is a section in here that goes over the mural part of what art would, and what it's.
Is the current art that we have, like at baseball stadium, the soccer field, is that would, obviously it would be grandfathered if it has any conflict with anything, but does that current art, does it come under these does it meet these guidelines?
What are,
Like the Hank Aaron's?
oh, the Hank Aaron, okay, that's the statue or the
Mhm.
custom. That
That's
wouldn't
soccer
fall
park,
under
isn't it?
this because the public art, this is really a temporary type of permit for art. It's a 3-year
Okay.
permit process.
So that differentiates it from
Right.
what currently has been.
Yes. And like you said, towards the end, I'll show a couple of examples of what they have that we found for public art. That,
Kind of like the Baroque statue, like that's
Yeah.
not a
yeah, well,
permanent.
that's a good example. And
Yeah.
that could be something that isn't going to last for a long period of time, just based upon the materials that it's built out of.
Doesn't this also somewhat address art that would be proposed like by an outside party versus art that's proposed by the city?
It said that.
Yeah, yeah, and that was part of what I went over at the first part, is if the city does any type of art, we display it, it's different than an outside group coming in. And I don't know what that group is yet. I mean, it could be an individual, it could be a group that comes in and they say, okay, we would like to do this, and we'd like to do this in Phoenix Park. Again, that's where, when we put these restrictions on, we want to make sure that if someone wants to come in and say, I want to cover Phoenix Park with a tarp. Is that art? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's in the eye of the beholder, but we want to make sure that we have restrictions on what can and can't be done. It gives us guidelines to be able to say yes or no, and it also helps the city council to be able to say it doesn't really fit with the ordinance that we have in place. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that actually, as I'll let you continue on, when I read through the ordinance, I thought it would be very difficult for someone to provide some kind of an art installation. And so I hope that we aren't getting so restrictive that it makes it almost impossible for someone to actually,
Yeah, and I heard from a couple other people regarding we don't want to lose any green space, and I think there's a happy medium we can find there, because the same thing with the sculpture tour. We're putting those in places around our parks and some of our facilities that it's enhanced some of those areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this can be that too, but I think we also need to have some guidelines to
yeah,
follow.
I understand that. I just didn't want us to go to the other side where it's almost
Sure.
impossible to have that opportunity.
And again, this is still a draft document, and we may come from here and you may have some suggestions for us, and we take it to city council, and they may have some suggestions for this too. It's our attempt to say, okay, this is what we think we need to make sure that we protect. I don't think anybody's ever going to say, with the city cemeteries, memorials, or tribute spaces, not to have things that would change the meaning of those places. But certainly this is why I'm bringing it to this group and then the council, because we can change what's in here. We can add, or we can soften some of the corners.
I mean, I have to wonder whether this is maybe partly a sort of contest over the identity and the brand of Eau Claire. I mean, you know, there's so much even national attention now on Eau Claire as this kind of emerging, you know, arts and culture economy, right? That's sort of, and I mean, I had not even read this, but last night I was chatting with some folks, including a newcomer to town, and we were delighting in the public art and the expansion of public art in Eau Claire, and someone made a comparison to Portland where they have some kind of set aside revenue to fund public art, and we were saying how wonderful this was. I think that's part of the sort of the new Eau Claire, and it's also very much part of the economic engine of the new Eau Claire. And that may not be comfortable with everybody. So I mean, I guess I'm with Ron and maybe some others here about being careful not to over-regulate public art. I mean, there's something about art that if you regulate it too much, it ceases to be art. It just ceases. It becomes, you know, some kind of, you know, commercial enterprise, or in the service of kind of the lowest common denominator of culture. We want, you know, vibrant art. Anyway, so I'm speaking for the vision of you know, Eau Claire is this arts community, and which doesn't mean you shouldn't have any regulation, but I think taking great care in how you regulate something that's so exciting and so attractive to so many people, because it also connects to the music, to the wide variety of music venues we have, some of which, you know, are attractive to some people and not so much to others.
Yeah, my hope that we're not going to do that here. I mean, that's not the intent, but we just want to make sure that we're protecting certain areas that we don't want to have.
I understand.
You know, I don't think we want a mural on the side of City Hall.
Yeah.
You know, some people might.
Or a process for arbitrating that. Yeah, I think that's.
Well, and then, right, then we do have a process to say, you know, with the Public Art Council, and then this group or city council will have the ultimate say whether this is a good idea.
I think too, just getting it in place is important, and then so that, I don't know, guidelines are nice, because you're right. I mean, some of these things are things that they'd have to think about anyway every time. So as long as it's there, you don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel.
So I'll go through the rest of it, and it does seem like a lot of this is that public art shall not, but what we're trying to do is make sure that when it does come forth, it's clear. And you know, there's some neat things that I pulled out with some pictures that I thought were pretty unique pieces of art that are across the country. Could be considered, you know, good public art. So I'll continue on with this, and we did good discussion. This is a good discussion. Public art shall not impede growth of landscaping, native plants, or neighborhood gardens, and shall abide by the city's planting guidelines. Shall not inhibit access to the property or parcel on which it is located. Be permitted on parcels of land declared as excess property unless the public art is temporary. And again, we do have, in the city of Eau Claire, we may have some parcels of land that the city sells at times that might be abutting another property. We sell that, so we want to be able to remove that in the event that the city does sell that property. Public art shall not be located within 10 feet of any curb ramp. And again, some of this stuff is for safety reasons, or on the edge of any trail path or other similar location. Restrict any line of sight or vision triangle for vehicular traffic or otherwise reduce public safety. Be designed to draw vehicle operators, pedestrians, or cyclists into portions of the right-of-way not intended for their specific use. And you can see, I think it's a monopoly board sitting in the middle of a street type of thing. That's probably not how we want to draw people there. Be located on any trail, path, or other similar location. Some of the mural restrictions, you can see on the one to the bottom left, it has somewhat of an optical illusion that could draw people into that. Now you wouldn't expect that, but again, we just want to make sure it doesn't create. Some of them have been put on sidewalks. I'm not sure if you've ever seen one of those, but it'll look like a great big hole, and it startles people at times, and so it can do some things that we don't want it to do.
The second one is okay.
The one on the right is okay, yeah.
Well, then, it's kind of a moot point now because it's on the university property, but when Chalk Fest was at Wilson, would one now be allowed with this ordinance to paint a three-dimensional optical illusion for the duration because that would violate that clause?
That would be a violation, right? If it was something that was.
I'm kind of comfortable delegating specifically what type of art. I mean, yeah, you don't want to have like, roadrunner lines drawing into oncoming traffic, like from the cartoons, but, obviously that could be a serious public concern, but, saying you can't draw optical illusion on a wall, that seems, look over this list, a lot of things are very good, yes, this is dangerous, that's going to destroy, but some of them get a little too much saying what artists can do and like kind of stifles creativity. So,
well, yeah.
I know this is the final draft, but maybe if some more looking is done at this, maybe try to make sure you're not stifling the creativity aspect of art and keep it just more for public safety. Although you seem to think this is in public safety, but that's on the picture there, for instance. I know you just found some places not exact example, clear, but it's it's on a giant wall in the field. I don't think anybody's going to mistake this for a path and walk into it. I think it looks pretty interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing that. So
that was just an example of.
Yeah, I know. Just got some art there to show,
could
but
be something different. But again, remember that the Public Art Council and the City Council will have the ultimate decision on.
But if it's in the ordinance saying you can't do this, you want to make it to the point where they can review it and say, oh, actually that's okay if it's stifled from before it gets to the review stage. So I just kind of agree with what other people say. Maybe keep all the good things in here, but watch how they don't step on the creativity too much.
It's interesting when you bring that point up, because if this was proposed on a private building, we'd be okay with it.
Oh.
Right.
It's only if it's on a public building.
Well, this ordinance is on public building.
Okay.
So some of the restrictions, it shall consist of either chalk or paint and is necessary to contain a non-slip adhesive. So if it's on a walk or something, we want to make sure that it's not slippery to where someone could get hurt, slip and fall. It shall not create a multi-dimensional effect, and that's kind of what the art on the left shows, that illusion type of thing. And again, this is just an example. It could be, I've seen ones where it looks like a great big sinkhole in a street, and it's actually, it's pretty neat art, but it gives you that optical. And it shall not interfere with the purpose or function of the pavement of the building. So again, I think that's, if it's something that interferes with that, that would be something that would give council guidelines to say, well, we wouldn't want that. Some additional, if located on a surface intended for use by pedestrians for interaction or entertainment, it shall be located only where there is a minimum surface width of 10 feet and shall leave a minimum of 4 feet of clearance. It shall be repainted or reapplied within 60 days of written notice by the city or at the applicant's sole expense. Some additional restrictions. It shall not reduce public safety. Shall not contain obscenity. Shall not imitate traffic signs, symbols, or signals in any form or include other text, numerals, or symbols that may distract vehicle operators if public art is visible from the right-of-way. It shall not consist of advertising. Shall not constitute a public nuisance. Public art shall comply with all other provisions in the city code of ordinances. the duration of any park, green space, or other property closure requested by the applicant for installation of art is subject to approval by the Director of Community Services. Again, what that means is if they're gonna close down a park to do this, we still have the community that wants to enjoy that park, so we wanna make sure that it's not something that's going to be a big inconvenience for our public. Conditions for the applicant must provide insurance in a minimum of amount of $1 million and name the city as an additional insured. How this will work is that the Public Arts Council will actually carry the insurance, and the applicants will go under their insurance for the art that they want to.
And they pay the premium then? Or is
I would imagine that they would pay something for that. The city may remove, alter, reconstruct, or relocate any public art or require the applicant to do so at the applicant's sole expense. So if something gets put in and the artist moves away and it just becomes in disrepair, we have to have the ability to do something. Whether it's to reconstruct it or just remove it entirely, that's something we have to have the ability to do. Applicants must sign waivers or agreements exonerating the city from any liability for damages connected with use of public art or caused by construction, operation, or maintenance of such art. One other change that we need to do, because graffiti in some forms can be considered art. So if you look at some of the graffiti on the sides of railroad cars, some of those folks have some real talent. I mean, some of it's really neat. But the difference between graffiti and public art is that graffiti, they didn't get approval to do that. Public art, they'll have approval to do that. So if it looks like graffiti, it may not actually be graffiti, it may be that type of art. So there will be a recommended ordinance amendment to the definition of graffiti. We'll add wording to section 9.6.020. Graffiti shall not include public art approved in accordance with section 9.76.23. So basically what public art is. So the difference there really is one is approved, the other has not been approved. And here's some examples of some neat public art. I like the one with the clothespin, and I think that is just really neat. I would like to see something like that. That's certainly a neat thing. There's another one with looks like understanding people can sit there and reflect. You got a nice area along the water and the backdrop of the city behind it. The other, to me, the one in the bottom left looks like a fingerprint. I think that's pretty neat art. That, again, something that for somebody else it might be something different. And then a little bit of I love the truth, or you can phrase that any way you want. So,
Was the Public Arts Council involved in drafting this?
no. This was city staff that was involved in doing that. I did meet with the Public Arts Council, and we went over this, and they had no problem with it.
Oh, okay.
They understand the intent. Again, our purpose isn't to squash the artistic expression. Because I think what's happened to Eau Claire is really very unique. Terry and I grew up here all of our lives, and I think there's probably others here too that have done that also. But it's changed the culture of the community a lot. And you just look at downtown and how vibrant it is, and everything that's going on. It's as Dave was saying, I've read articles all the way from the Milwaukee Journal, Madison. They're just, everybody's talking about Eau Claire. I mean, how
Yeah.
very, where it's going.
So I guess I'd like to say two things. One about expressive art. So there's a public art piece outside of the Children's Museum. You've seen it. It's a kind of simulates kind of a World War I era tank, right? I find it offensive, right? But I'm never going to say that shouldn't be there. But I dislike it. I'm glad there's a 6-year limit on it. If there's a 6-year limit, I don't think it belongs in front of a children's museum. I mean, you may not share the opinion. It's okay. But for me, it's just an inappropriate public artwork especially right outside a children's museum, right? But I would never say that artist should not have been able to do a public artwork and there may be something else which I really like, which other people are offended by, right? I think we need to celebrate what public art is, which is that it is expressive, right? And we don't want to limit it too much. So it's sort of repeating myself, but I want to use an example of something I don't like, but I think has the right, it should be there because it's part of the complexity of artistic life and culture and history in Eau Claire. Friendly suggestion that we have a preamble here that before we say all these things that public art can't do and can't be, we have a preamble that says how much we celebrate public art. What a great contribution it is to our community, to Eau Claire. It's part of the sort of the emergence of Eau Claire as this arts and culture mecca for many people. They're all coming here to see to hear our art and to see our art. So if we had something like that was very positive, and that the regulations were and I hope some of these things are revised to be a little bit less restrictive, right?
Well, and confusing. I feel like that one about the free speech was kind of confusing. I mean,
You mean on the definition of the?
Like where?
That was
Yeah,
That was the last sentence, first paragraph.
Yeah, that was in the definition of public art.
Museums, right at that end, and one that it just says protected under the, I don't know, just expressive. What does that mean? It's confusing.
I'll have to be honest, I'll have to get our legal department to understand why that was put in.
Mm-hmm.
Pat and I were on this same, and I'm on the same committee here, and
Yeah, I had a number of similar comments to what aren't worded in tonight.
But this is good. This is good to have this discussion before it goes to city council, because I'm sure I'm going to have the same questions with council. So we will clear those up in regards to those questions.
I think it's nice in the luxury of having a definite termination and as descriptive as possible, because art is so interpretive. I mean, everyone's going to look and have a different feeling, like the tank. And so it's nice for us to have those guidelines, as strict as they sound. At least we have somewhere to start, so that we eliminate some of the interpretation that people are going to have. But I agree too. I think that there needs to be, but the hard part is the venue. There's the public venue and there's the private venue. Getting back to the library, we choose to go to that bookshelf and get that specific book that expresses that type of expression. And we choose to go to museums that maybe have new drawings and everything that goes with museums, but people don't always have that choice. They think they're going to a park to throw a ball around and play catch, and it doesn't mean that as a city that we should expose them to things that maybe every family might not be as appreciative of. So yeah, it's a hard line to walk. But
I just think you codify that and make it different. It's a very high bar from the beginning, because again, who would get the final to say on? There's the Public Arts Council, but then also City Council would have to approve any art installations. So since you have these two gates after the ordinance, I think the ordinance could err on the side of being more lenient as far as the type of art allowed, and then you're going to have two governing bodies afterward, which would then be able to, at their discretion, remove things that may be objectionable. So I think once you set the high bar, you're kind of sifting out too much at the front when you're trying to say it can't, be offensive, or it can't be this, or it can't be that, or it can't be multidimensional, something like that. So I just think codifying what types of art are allowed might be a step too far. All the stuff in here, like 90%, like you can't be a public nuisance, like can't be like making noise, and you can't, be slippery. That's all very good. I think just kind of being tuned back on what type of art is allowed might be beneficial.
Yeah, I understand that, and I don't believe what we've done is saying what type of art it can be. What we're saying a lot of places, locations where we would not like to see it. That primarily that's what is.
Yeah, like 95% of this is very good reasonable. There's like about 5% that seems to be a little heavy on the artists. Is my interpretation of this text here.
And our intent was never to stymie the creativity of the art or explaining what can be the art, because certainly that we don't want to do that. We would just want to make sure we protect areas that we would like to see, that we don't put something that would create an issue. And then, of course, I mean, if it's in a park or in a space, it's going to come to this commission at some point for you to recommend approval or not approval before it gets to council. So again, it may go through three different groups. Not only the Public Arts Council, but it could be the Waterways and then the City Council. And again, there could be half and half that people would look at something, just like Dave said, is that there's a piece of art that's down by that he doesn't particularly care for. But again, he's not going to say anything about it because that's the expression of the artist. So. But we just, again, what we're trying to do here is just put some guidelines in place before a great deal of these requests come to the city council. It's to give the council some guidelines on what is acceptable and what perhaps might be an issue in certain areas.
It's 9.76.170 that deals with parks, assemblies, and how you have to conduct yourself at assemblies and stuff. Could that expressive speech business just mention which is covered in 9. Blah blah blah? Because that talks about not disturbing the peace and.
Are you
Yeah, I think
referring to something that we
you're
have?
talking.
No,
That's in the
ordinance.
codes, it's
Okay.
not in this
Okay.
thing.
You're talking about speech versus art.
Is that what we're talking about? We were talking about expressive speech? Is
Oh,
somebody
in
preaching,
that part there, I want to
maybe
get
pull
some
out?
clarification. I want to get clarification from legal as why
Okay,
that part was put into the code.
okay.
Because quite honestly, I don't know if I have all the information on the legal part of that to answer that for you.
Okay.
And I don't want to say something that's not correct and then have legal say, no, this is what our intent was here.
I know of one potential project that wouldn't be approved based on these guidelines. There's a member of the Eastside Hill Neighborhood Association who wants to work with Flynn Elementary School to make a painting on the street on an intersection in front of the school, and it would basically fill up the whole intersection. This is something that has been done in other cities, but these restrictions say that they have to be 10 feet from a curb ramp, so it probably wouldn't allow a painting of this type.
You're correct.
I mean, is that that's a safety thing?
Again, yeah, I mean, in the right of way, I mean, based upon what we have here in this draft ordinance, you're correct that would be prohibited.
And we got our neighborhood task force. We had representatives from different neighborhoods from kind of the Twin Cities area or Madison, Milwaukee area attend, and they talked about public art as kind of a important thing as a cohesive type of thing for neighborhoods. And they had one example of using having artists do poetry on sidewalks and things like that as something within their neighborhoods. I don't know where that would fit in this ordinance or not.
Yeah, I think it's tough with some of the guidelines we have.
What was the painting in the intersection gonna be? Because would that be a distraction?
I don't think they had settled on a design or anything. I think it was more to identify the intersection as a place where kids are coming and going and to draw extra attention to it, and to sort of celebrate the identity of the elementary school and the neighborhood.
So maybe that could be just, I mean, just looked at where, like, on the streets, you could say, like, without permission, even.
Yeah, I think that would fall under the distraction of,
Yeah.
of drivers and essentially in the right of way.
Do you happen to know?
Well, as far as distraction though, you have all the sculptures right along the roadway, and people can look at them while driving. Is where you draw a line between what's a distraction and what's not as far as the location. So,
Well, again, I think it's going to be up to the Public Arts Council, this group, if it's within a park, or the city council to determine if they think it's going to be a distraction. Just because the ordinance says it shall not, perhaps council will decide that we don't think it's going to be a distraction. We go by a lot of things as we drive our vehicles, whether it's signs from businesses, or I know when they first brought out the lighted advertising signs, when they first came out, those to me were very distracting because they were so bright and they caught your attention, and they would change from one advertisement to the next, and I'd always catch myself looking up there at them. So again, I think that is going to have to be a decision by council to determine if they believe that art would be a distraction.
But like Josh was saying, this ordinance would prevent this art that I've spoken about from even being considered. It'll be eliminated off the bat, so the council won't be able to use its judgment on that case.
I would say that's true because you'd be putting some art on the city right away, in the city street.
Yeah, I think what is coming out of this conversation is a desire to be a little less restrictive, to give more decision-making authority to an art council that includes people who are artists, who then will balance it along with what regulations remain with public safety concerns. This seems unusually. I mean, I've never read a public art ordinance before, so I can't really compare it to anything else. But it reads very like it's all about restriction.
It does. I agree.
And you can acknowledge that. But so having a little bit of increasing the judgment made by an arts council as part of the process, so that things aren't automatically eliminated before they even get out of the chute. Do we know which city public art ordinance we drew from for this proposal?
I don't know. I'd have to check with our legal.
It wasn't the city that has that, or it wasn't Portland.
Is there an appeals process to the Arts Council or to council or to our group by the artists or groups representing the artists?
No, the city council would have final say. The city council approves it, then it's approved. If they don't, then it's not.
I'm interested in Terry's thoughts. Do you think that this is overly restrictive?
Yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, I think we're going to want to make it as the decision-making process in a way as simple as possible. And sometimes the more restrictive it is, the easier it is for us to make a decision. Again, the 8 of us or 10 of us right now, if we had to decide on whether one was going to be accepted or not, we're all going to have different ideas of what we like and what we don't. And so, how do you do that? I don't know. I'd be curious to see what the community was, and if it is working, if they're still producing art and displaying art, and if it's been received well and it's been prosperous for the community, that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And that terminology is working.
That's a good idea.
Frankly, I'd like to see more involvement of the Public Arts Council in the development of this. I mean, if this just came out of the legal team, that doesn't exactly seem like the right place for this to originate.
Well, like you said, I did present this to the Public Arts Council, and they thought this would work in regards to what they feel artists would come to the city, to their council to say, I'd like to do this here.
How is this going? Like, are people coming in and saying we want to do an art installation, or are we like going out and trying to get people to come do art installations? Like,
Currently, not that I know of. I think eventually this group will be looking at soliciting some ideas to do some projects. But again, this was something that was just created through this last Leadership Eau Claire program. They don't actually have insurance yet, so they're working through that part of it. So.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm really not looking for any recommendation for approval, but I was looking for some of your feedback, and I've heard it loud and clear, so I'll work with our legal department and softening some of this up, and then when we bring it to council, that certainly we hope that will. And I may have some comments from council too regarding this. But I appreciate your feedback on it.
Thanks.
Hey Dan, question. When does recommendation, does it require a code or not? In the agenda it says recommendation. Do they get a vote or not? Or
Reads that way. But if during the course of our discussion you've changed your mind on that, then.
Well, I would say that initially we're going to look for a recommendation for approval, but I hear that you would like to hear some changes or see some changes to this. And what I would say is that we'll work with our legal to make some changes to the ordinance that would be in their approval. We'll go through. So I suppose what we could do is that we could look for a recommendation for approval with the changes that were discussed. And what I had down was too restrictive. Look at rephrasing the public art definition to be a little bit less restrictive.
if you look for
Have
any,
a motion to postpone recommendation on this until,
would it come back to this commission again or would it not?
No, it's planned to go for first reading at the next council.
Because if it's a vote,
second reading at the-
because we had a vote on this, I wouldn't vote yes unless something I agree with everything there. So right now, as currently saying, I vote no on this because I think it's too restrictive. I'd like to see either come back to us again or we have a straight yes or no vote on this because as written, I would not approve this. If there's any changes, I'd like to see it come by again. As, being a member of the committee here.
Okay.
I mean, I probably, no pending revisions, but as currently standing now, I probably would know.
Joshua, did you have a chance to read the whole ordinance itself?
Yeah, I did, and I wouldn't vote yes unless I agree with everything in the ordinance. I wouldn't say, it's mainly okay. I would be approving of everything, so. And the member of the commission, I think, is the duty, so.
Sure. Okay.
Now, and I said before, I think 95% of here is good, reasonable stuff, but there's like 5% that's a little heavy, so. I'm not saying it's bad, I think it needs some revisions.
Okay.
And I think there needs to be some work with the Arts Council to consider just what is it going to mean if we say, no, we can't have this, no, we can't have that. What kind of projects are not gonna come here? Because it's not like Eau Claire has the monopoly on city art. Artists will just go somewhere else.
Okay.
Can't you just collect our input, collect city council's input, and then come back with the improved version? Does it
Well,
have
when
to?
it goes to second reading, the council, then they're going to approve it. And if I bring it back to this group for next meeting, that would require going to council one meeting after. And we could do that.
I don't imagine this is an urgent matter.
No, it really isn't. So why don't we plan on doing that also? I'll bring it back at the next meeting with some adjustments.
So at this point, the minutes would reflect the discussion of the commission and the points that you made and the concerns that were raised.
Could we recommend postponing until revisions?
Mm-hmm.
I do so.
And a second?
Second.
Jason seconds. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Please do. Next item on the agenda is recommendation on a site plan for a warehouse building for B&B Electric located at 1202 Western Avenue to the west of the city's recreational trail.
The city has received a site plan that's been prepared by Lane Peterson Architects for B&B Electric located at 1202 Western Avenue, as shown here on the monitor, for a new warehouse and assembly building. This is the location where it's located right now on Western Avenue. This is a little bit of a more close-up. The reason that this is coming to the Parks and Waterways Commission is because the city's recreational trail runs along the east side of the property as shown here. And this is Western Avenue located right here. And then this is a closer up picture. This is a photo from Google Maps that was taken back about a year or so ago. If you go out and look at the site right now, the site has been cleared right now. So the building that's there, the storage that's there is all gone. Basically, it's a clean property at this point in time. This is a part of the site plan here that shows the artist rendering of the building that would be constructed on the site. It's about 24,000 square feet in size. And this is the existing site showing the previous building that was on there. This is the property line located right here. This is the recreational trail in yellow here. And then Western Avenue is located over this area here. This is the actual site plan for the building here. Again, this is the property line located here. If you can see the mouse on the monitor, the recreational trail. And then this is the outline of the building located here with parking that would be located to the northeast of the building, about 14 stalls. One thing that I noted in the staff report right now is that there's the fence for the property extends out about 15 feet into our right-of-way located right here. This being the property line located right here. As part of our recommendation, is that, for this site plan, is that this fence be moved back to the property line, out of the right of way. As part of the site plan, they also are looking at realigning the driveway going from Western Avenue over to the site. Right now, it's located just slightly to the north. They would be moving it down at this location here to line up better with proposed parking. All of the outdoor storage that was there at the previous site will be eliminated. So we'll see a much cleaner site with the new development. This drawing here shows the grading plan for this. The grading and drainage will need to be approved by the city engineer, but there is storm sewer at this site. Basically, there are a series of catch basins located to the south side, and then over along this location here and here that will drain the site. What we're proposing, in addition to the relocation of the fence and the property line, and normally we do require landscaping along the front of the property. What we would be proposing here is that trees be planted within this green space, so actually within our right of way here, and that would be approved by our city forester. And we've done that with other projects. Martin Johnson is one example where we did that. In this case, since the building itself is going to be within about 5 feet of the property line. They will be required to provide bicycle parking for this, and any lighting would need to be meet our lighting standards in terms of providing shielded lighting for that, and we would recommend that with those changes. We do have the applicant is here tonight if you have any questions.
Any questions for Pat or the applicant?
We do have also just, this is a picture of the site before it was cleared down. You can see the outdoor storage that was there. This is where the fence extends out into our right-of-way here. So that fence will be brought back and in line with this fence right here that comes across here.
So will anything really change for a person using the trail?
No. Well, with the exception is that the outdoor storage won't be there. There'll be some landscaping between the trail and the business, so probably a little bit more pleasant atmosphere.
Okay.
Will there be more vehicles going in and out, or the previous thing?
You can ask the applicant.
Not necessarily any more vehicles, it's just right now the maintenance that they're doing on the vehicles that are parked outside and the storage that they use to go from job to job. They're spending more on that, so the idea is that the vehicle traffic will increase, it's just going to be parked in the building versus on the site. Currently, the building that was there, the old World George building, had a single entry to it, so it was basically an old factory warehouse, whereas now what we've done is move the garage door to the north side so they're not in a visible sight line, and then now they can get more vehicles into it versus having single entry.
Yeah, makes sense.
Were you done with your portion of the presentation?
Yeah.
Or did you have any presentation you
No,
wanted
I'm
to
here
give?
just to answer any questions, yeah.
What was your name?
Bruce Mullins with William Peterson on Defense.
Okay. Any other questions for either the applicant or Pat?
When is this going to be constructed?
Well, this would be going to the plan commission at the next meeting on Monday, and I think being hoping to start this fall yet.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
And be completed?
What's that?
And be completed when?
They're hoping to be completed late fall, early winter, so. It's a pre-engineered steel building like most of the facilities along that, industrial I-1 zoning area, so, should be a fairly quick construction.
I'll move to approve the site plan recommendation.
A second?
I'll second too.
Ron? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks for coming. Special events.
Okay, there are not any special events to present tonight to the commission. We do have some new events that are on the, that you heard the solar eclipse at the last meeting, and that was approved by council on their Tuesday meeting last night. The others are returning events. They've recurred before, and we've had them before, so that's the reason why they're not being brought in a presentation. So, if you have any questions regarding any of the special events, I'd be happy to answer any of those.
Do you happen to know for the solar eclipse party, are they having glasses provided for people to? Okay, just making sure.
They are. And they actually have a couple of neat things. They had the glasses, but they also had a state of Wisconsin piece of plastic that had a hole in it, that for the first 50 people that came there, they could look through that, and it would be enough to block out any of the ultraviolet radiation. But they made that with one of those water jet machines, so, or something similar to that. But they have some eye protection. They have an area that
I figured they did. I'm blind looking at a solar eclipse without protection.
Right.
Okay.
Any other
directors'
questions on special events?
When did the firewall, has that started from Ontario?
That was also approved last night by City Council.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, so that's on the list here?
That's on the list. That was presented to the group in June.
Oh,
Or
it's
in
farther
the,
down.
no,
Yeah.
the main.
The fireball run.
Yeah. So
Sounds pretty cool.
that's coming on the September 23rd and 24th.
Yep.
I remember we approved it a while back.
I'm a little worried about the weather for that day.
That'd be great.
Like, what if it's like snowing? And then they're supposed to
Hopefully
be swimming
not
down the
snow.
river? I know, but
Mu-
you
much
never
of-
know.
Yeah, much of their activity is on
I
the
know.
river. So if we do have flooding conditions,
Okay.
that they do have contingencies set up for that.
I mean, September is still
It could be cold though. That water could be.
Anything else on special events? No. Director's report?
The director's report, I've added only new items, and for future references, these will be updated each time, so you won't see any yellow to show upgrades and what future progress has. So I'll just go through these rather quickly, and if you have any questions, let me know. But for Boyd Park, just to let you know that City Council did approve the memorandum of understanding with the skate park group, and right now they're expected to raise the $75,000, or the total cost of the construction of the skate plaza in Boyd Park. Some of the concerns that I've had from some of the area neighbors is that it does not impact some of the winter activities we have out there with skating and that, and I told them that that would not happen, but also reassured them that when we get to a point in design, we'll be having some open houses to where the neighborhood groups can come in and give input on the site, where it's gonna be, where it's gonna land, and so they were reassured about that. And then also for this group is that the project will be coming back to the Waterways and Parks once the final design is completed. So for, again, approval from this group to be recommended to the City Council. Any questions on Boyd Park? No? Carson Park Baseball, I'd like to give you just an update on that. The project will not be going forward this year. The fundraising efforts were not successful. To this point, they have been raising money, but not at the milestone that they needed to reach for us to start construction. In regards to design, we're about 80% complete with the design part of it. We have asked our consultant to put that work on hold for right now. Rather than going through and continuing to spend money on the design, we're going to hold off on that. The impact isn't going to be very great. All they'll see is perhaps a standard of living 3% that they would expect their raises to be would be the impact. Again, what our hope is that by this time next year, that the fundraising will have been successful and we'll be moving forward with that project. Any questions on Carson Park?
Does that mean do you guys have to do the whole changing the, what's it called over?
The bleachers.
The bleachers over?
Yeah, we'll be moving them.
That sounds like fun.
And that did come to a few groans from our employees having to move it. For the high schools and the university, they were a little bit relieved. We have a plan in place to, once we do put artificial turf on the baseballs, to create a half horseshoe around the stadium. We think it's going to look pretty neat when we're done. It'll be a different experience for watching the game. So there'll be that one portion, of course, where the baseball field is on the left field and a little bit of center field that we won't be able to be on. But all around there, we're going to create kind of a little bowl effect. And I think that will be a good, I think it'll work out very nicely. And our estimate is that the capacity will not change significantly to the football stadium. So.
Did they get the 50% fundraising? Did they get close? Are they, no?
Not yet. And again, what's happening in the community, there's so much fundraising going on. And I think there's a donor fatigue going on. I think that's the whole thing. But it's a good project, and I know there are still a lot of people that are interested in supporting it. So
It'd be a fundraising dinner with Hank Aaron would bring in somebody.
Yeah.
Any questions on Carson Park? Department Safety Committee, just to let you know, we continue to work very diligently with our staff to make sure everybody's safe in the jobs we do. And the last meeting I mentioned that we had a safety day. It was the first safety day that we've ever done with this group. My old division, we used to do them, we've done them every year, and, partly because it's regulatorily required. The other part is that it was a good time for managers, supervisors, and employees to get together and talk about our operations and what's needed for safety. So, Emerald ash borer, again, discoveries continue to be found in new communities. The discovery closest to Eau Claire is in Trumpeldor County. We continue to work in an effort to take some of the ash out of our system and to find a more diverse group of trees so we don't run into a situation like when we had the old okay. So this is our 5th season, and we feel that things are going very well in regards to that. Fairfax Pool, as of January 11th, we had over 27,000 people use the pool. So we were actually at about the same number as 2016, which was a very, very good year. As we were looking at all this, we had one weekend where it was really hot, and we had a problem in the pool where we had. Were you there? You were there. So we had an episode or an incident where someone had an accident, and it was a diarrhea. So we have processes and procedures where we have to clear the pool, do a significant disinfection process, and it has to sit for quite a long time. So on that weekend, we ended up, it was 80s, high 80s, 90s. We missed out on a good portion of Saturday and all Sunday. But it was reopened on July 17th, and things have been going well. Half Moon Lake, give you an update on that. Water quality in the lake appears to be excellent. We just recently finished the herbicide and alum treatment. So that has been going on, and we'll be looking at later this year to determine if we're going to do a mechanical harvest of the lake. But right now, it doesn't look like there's enough vegetation for us to do so.
We went twice to swim there. There was a lot the last time.
Oh, did you? Right at the
beach?
beach? Really?
Oh,
A lot of the curly.
Curly?
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, again, we're going
It
to
was
be
like last weekend.
last week,
So like 3 or 4 days ago. 5 days ago.
right up on shore there, right?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Okay. Well,
Just in it.
perhaps we'll be taking the machine out there to clear up some of that. Did you see any of the black terrains on the water at all?
Is that like, yeah.
They're really hard.
No.
No, I didn't see them. Okay. Well, again, we'll be looking at that with the DNR to determine if we're going to do a mechanical harvest. Hobbs Ice Center, we took delivery of a new Zamboni machine. So again, we have another very similar to, so what that does is give us more consistency with our operators when they're surfacing the ice. They're the same machine essentially. So before we used to have an Olympia and a Zamboni, two different operations, 2 different machines. So this will give us more consistency. We just installed new ice on Ackervick Rink and put some new logos and paint, so that rink looks really good. And then additionally, we took the ice off the O'Brien rink. And the reason why we do that is that when you have ice on a rink too long, you actually drive frost down into the under surface of the concrete, and that can create a permafrost. So when we take that out, let it warm up, and towards the end of September, we'll be putting that back on to the O'Brien rink, getting ready for the fall hockey seasons. McDonough Park, pickleball courts, final grading is complete, and sometime later this fall, we'll be doing the paving with Monarch. So we already went out for bid on that.
Hopefully it's done next week.
What's that?
Hopefully it's done.
Hopefully next week, yeah. I know
Next
we're
week
working
or
with
Friday.
do you compete on those courts? Do you compete on those courts?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm taking down the windscreens on the east side fence, and then the city's gonna take down that fence. And so we're ready for the paving anytime.
Okay. So we'll schedule that with Monarch. I know we.
Yeah, I think Todd Qualla is working
Yeah.
on that.
I know that has really reinvigorated the McDonough Park area, where we were seeing some not so savory behavior there. Now it's bringing that. We got some more people around there. So
Yeah, we've had continued increased demand for use of those courts, and last week, in fact, we had several days where we had over 40 people that were coming in to play. We can only hold 24 on the current 6 courts. So it's just reflective of why we needed to have an expansion.
Do they play into the evening?
You know. The courts are open from 8 until dark.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it.
We have play continuously throughout the day and evening.
yeah.
I'm not there all that time.
I have actually received a couple of complaints of people being there too early, but those were unfounded because it was within the time of when the
Yeah, we in fact have a sign that we request no one play before 7:30.
Yep. Yeah, this was within the time that the park was open, so. Just to let you know, our fall prime times is currently being worked on, and we hope to have the final copy available sometime in mid-August. And a little update on the Veterans Tribute Trail. The group is fundraising for the project now. That was approved by council in the MOU. And we've recently submitted the needed documents to the Wisconsin Emergency Management to be able to put the tribute in the area because it is considered a floodplain, and a lot of the properties there were purchased with FEMA money. And so we have to get a permission to install and build some of these structures in that area.
Well, most of that's within the alley. Isn't it?
Yeah, and that's going to be what's will give us the ability to put that trail in using pervious type of material. But the group has agreed to that, and the one sticking point likely maybe with the bathroom and the pavilion area that they're looking at putting in. And the requirement was to bring that at an elevation that they had differently on their plan, so they were going to correct that. And again, that project will come back and forth to this group once their fundraising is successful and we get the designs and plans at a completion. And that's all I have for the director's report.
If there's nothing else, can we get a motion and second to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Ron seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're done. Thank you.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689. Or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.